what I find is that by showing up every day and moving forward as an entrepreneur, positive things happen in your life.
Inspiring you to reach your goals and live your dream. This is the Keaton Nelson Show.
Alrighty, guys. Today I have an awesome guest for you. Great treat. Brad Blazar. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today, man.
You're very welcome. It's great to be here with you.
Yeah, I bet, man. Brad, just before we hopped on here, just told me he's getting flown out to Dubai, which is freaking awesome. Yeah. I was like, we got to get that right in here really quick. That's great. So I'd love to, get to know you a little bit better. And that same thing with our listeners. Like, where are you from and like, what do you do?
Yeah. Well, I happen to be in Texas right now, but moved around a lot. I guess as a kid, my dad was an executive working primarily in real estate. So kind of following his career took me from Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, Florida, and a couple of other states. But I ended up here in Texas back in the 80s, basically as a college student, and then eventually as the founder and CEO of a small oil company that I started. But today we primarily do two things. I run essentially two different companies. One is a real estate investment / private equity firm where we raise capital from high net worth individuals and investors. We aggregate that money into a fund, and then we go out and we invest that in real estate that generates both passive income, tax benefits, capital appreciation, et cetera, et cetera. And then the other side is, I think today we probably run what's the best known and probably the largest platform of its kind, coaching and mentoring other people on how to attract and how to raise capital from high net worth individuals and investors so that entrepreneurs or business owners can basically build, buy, or scale their business, or as I like to say, do something bigger in life, invest in something like real estate. And it's really my belief, Keaton, that everybody, doesn't matter where you live, has this inner desire to do something bigger. It could be start a business, could be invest in real estate, but we all kind of want more abundance in our lives. And as a business coach, when I ask people in a little bit more detail to go deeper with that, what I find is that most people are not doing that something big out of a lack of fear or of self-doubt. They're simply doing it because they don't have the money to even get started.
Yeah.
And so, with the ability to teach people how to raise capital and the background I have, we kind of become that catalyst, if you will, once people understand that all the money they need to do everything in life they ever could dream of is around them every day. They're just called investors. And so once we teach people how to attract them and what to say to them, we're basically able to help a lot of those people make their dreams become a reality. And that's really, for me, the pleasure that I seek today is getting all the emails, the videos, telling me that, hey, what you taught me worked. And I was able to start that company, or I was able to launch that business or do whatever. And so that's largely what we do. We basically coach and mentor people all around the world on the philosophy of raising capital, how to go out and actually do it.
Cool. Before, I would definitely want to dig more into that. But before we do, what was life like growing up? Just out of curiosity, were your parents rich or like,
Far from it.
Yeah.
No. Here's the funny thing, and I tell this story a lot when I'm speaking on stage. I grew up, I guess, in what you call a, upper middle class family. I mean, we did well, but certainly by any stretch of the imagination, Keaton, we were not rich. My dad was an executive. We were able to live in a nice community. Went to summer camps, had vacations, yada yada. But I certainly knew that we weren't rich. But with that being said, much like Robert Kiyosaki, I did have a rich uncle. And so I quickly learned from my rich uncle a lot of the things that I talk about today in life. But I knew immediately that I wanted to be more like my rich Uncle Henry than I did like my dad, because I saw the benefits, of course, of having abundance. But it was really my uncle that was kind of my rich dad. if you've ever read basically, Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad,
Mhm.
that instilled in me some of the things that I do today. Because I remember when I was maybe 7, maybe 8, we were at the Palm Beach Country Club, and we were there after dinner, and we were kind of walking around, and he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "You see that guy over there? That guy makes all the hangers that are in your closet. And this guy over here, he makes all the little erasers that are at the end of the pencils that you use in school." And then
Mhm.
he basically looked at me and he said, "Brad, if you can find out some point in your life, like what you're really great and gifted at, and package it up and deliver it to the world, it's magical." And I define that as a revelation. A revelation is kind of one of those aha moments that you have in life, but that revelation may not present itself until many years later. And I was actually watching a TV show a few years ago where Steve Harvey was on stage and he was talking to his entire audience. And he basically said to this entire audience of people, on TV, "Hey, it's my belief that everybody here in my audience has a special gift. I call it your special gift or your something special. But the problem is most of you will never figure out what that is. You'll go through life and you'll never know what that unique talent or that hard skill is." And literally, it was about 2 weeks after hearing that revelation kind of popped into my mind, and I realized, like, oh my God, my something special is I know how to raise money better than anybody I've ever met. I've raised literally hundreds of millions of dollars. And I said, that's the one thing that I believe entrepreneurs and business owners really need to master, because, you get to a certain point in any business where you kind of plateau and, you're kind of going along there and you're like, man, if I just had more money for marketing, or if I just had more money to hire more people, or if I just had more money to do this, then usually what they do is they go to a bank and they borrow and they become indebted. And that's one of the worst things, because now you're obligated to a stream of payments. Obviously, the bank now, of course, can come and, foreclose on the business's assets if you don't pay them back in a timely basis. And, you get all those nasty threatening letters, where investors don't have those same rights.
Mhm.
Investors, if they're accredited, understand the risks of investing in businesses. And as an entrepreneur, if you've got to temporarily suspend the payments or lower the amount you're paying or whatever, it's totally fine. There's really nothing that they can do. And so I've always built my businesses along the premise, if I need money, I'm going to investors. And so, that's kind of how I grew up, is, having, I guess, what you would really call two mentors in my life. Of course, my father, who I dearly, of course, loved, but also kind of my rich uncle that was kind of that rich dad, as it relates to, the Rich Dad, Poor Dad that Robert Kiyosaki writes about, in his best-selling book.
Mm. Cool. So you're talking, you make points about, taking on these investors and things like that. How do you find these high net worth individuals to be able to come and invest for you?
Great question. Yeah. The thing that I'll share with you is they're around you all the time. And most people are just not cognizant, because they're not in that mode of seeking investors or having conversations with investors. But they're around us on a daily basis. Your doctor, he's an accredited investor. He's certainly somebody that makes a lot of money. Depending on where you live, maybe your neighbors, just based on your socio, demographic status. But one thing that you can do today is go to Google or go to Meetup and just Google local investment clubs.
Hmm.
And by definition, if you start showing up in your community at some of these investment clubs, whether they're a crypto club or whether they're a stock club or whether they're a real estate club, by definition, everybody there is an investor. And then you just start networking. Hey, here's what I'm doing. Hey, I've got this deal. I'm looking for some investors. Might you be interested? Or today, you can also use the internet. You can reach out to people on LinkedIn. You can post ads, because under the Jobs Act that loosened the restrictions and made it easier for entrepreneurs and business owners. We can do that nowadays, as long as the investors we're talking to are accredited. And then, of course, you can host networking events. So there's always a way to create what I call that forward inertia, getting in front of people, having conversations, having Zooms, having face-to-face meetings. And then as you're having conversations with people, you use a lot of the things that we teach in our program, like the 4-step blueprint, the trust sequence, the validation phrase, to kind of pre-qualify people and then move
To
them.
pre-qualify investors, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but I'm, yep, okay.
Exactly. Pre-qualify, make sure that they're suitable, make sure that they have the funds, make sure as a fiduciary that this particular investment you're wanting to discuss with them is something, of course, that would benefit them. And then you just kind of move them forward through this process. And ultimately you get to a point where they're like, well, what are the next steps? Or how do we move forward and actually invest with you? And then from there, it's just the formality of, filling out the paperwork or kind of taking the next steps in that journey. And then once you get one, you just rinse and repeat the process to 3. And then before you know it, you got 5, and then you get 10. And 9 to 12 months later, you look back and you're like, wow, I raised $3 million or $5 million or whatever that number happens to be. And now when it comes time to raise money, you've got the network, you've got the investors, and it just becomes easier the longer you do it.
Yeah. So let's say I have a business. How do I know when it's the right time to pull on investors and when it's the wrong time?
Well, I don't say that there's really, quote, a right or wrong time. Let's face it, there's so many investors out there that do invest in startups, that do invest with entrepreneurs that have a great idea or have a product but not yet proven. Those are called angel investors or startup investors or, venture capitalists. Then you have investors that invest in what we call early stage businesses. These are businesses that have been out there for a while. They're doing okay. They're generating revenue. Maybe they're not profitable yet, but they got a customer base. They're going and they need that second round of capital, or maybe they need some expansion capital. There's a whole group of investors that like stuff like that. And then, of course, there's also investors out there that like to invest in more established businesses. So there's always going to be investors out there. And I won't say that it's, quote, a right way or right time or a right place. I mean, when I started my oil company at the age of 23, I had never drilled an oil well. I knew nothing about it. I never built or managed a company. All I knew how to do was raise money. And so I got on the phone, I started talking to people, but I knew that I could find an attorney and a CPA and get some advisors and get a geologist, and around me build a team. And that's really the most important thing to basically be able to do. Is most investors that look at somebody say, Keaton, you've convinced me that you and your team can execute on this strategy. It's all about the execution. And if you show somebody that you can execute on an idea or delivering a product or doing something like that, you can be wildly successful at going out and attracting and raising capital.
Interesting. So this probably will be interesting for the viewers in general anyway. I talked a little bit about this on my last podcast with Sean Castrino, he's fantastic. I don't know if you know him or not. But I've got multiple people coming to me offering to invest in my company, basically, and take a big chunk. They all want like 40-50% of the company, 40 to 49. I won't give up 50. And I don't know if it's a good deal or a bad deal, and I'm not sure how to tell. And I'd be interested to get your opinion on this, if that's okay.
No, absolutely. I mean, you have to look at the business and kind of assess where it is. And basically determine what the use of the proceeds would be for. Would it be for marketing? Would it be for hiring staff? What would that additional money really be used for, and how would it benefit the business? And if you were able to bring that money in, what type of a return would you see? Would it be a 2x? Would it be a 5x? Where could the business potentially be in the next 3 to 5 years with that infusion of capital? Personally, I think that for someone to come in and ask for 40, 45, 49% is a little bit egregious. But again, it just depends what they can bring to the table. If they're bringing money and they're also bringing intellectual capital where they can be a good strategic advisor, maybe they've done something before that's going to complement the business or just help you grow, or maybe there's some relationship capital where they can introduce you to other people in their network. Because I also believe that sometimes you're just one connection away from dramatically changing your life, then, it might be worth a discussion. I would start maybe at, a much lesser amount and try to negotiate maybe somewhere in between and say, well, I was thinking somewhere more along the lines of 15 to 20%, you're up here at 40%. Why don't we there's a happy medium? But the other thing too, you have to realize, Keaton, and for your listeners, is that when you're working with investors, you don't have to give up any equity. A lot of investors out there are willing to give you their money and structure it around something like a debt offering. You structure a note and just say, look, I'll pay you interest over the next 2-3 years, whatever that time horizon is. We'll pay you on a quarterly basis. And at the end, we'll just give you your principal back. And a lot of retirees and a lot of people that are a little bit later in life, they love that. Why? Because they're looking for income. They're no longer working, or they're at a point where they're transitioning from a job over to retirement. And so, what do they have? They got savings, they got Social Security, maybe. And then, of course, they have any other source of income. So if you come in and say, hey, I can afford to pay you a pretty nice rate of return, maybe 7-8% on a quarterly basis, they're like, yeah, well, that sounds real attractive to me now. And you haven't given up, quote, any equity. The other, which we do a lot of, this is used more in Silicon Valley, is something that we call a SAFE agreement. A SAFE agreement was used a lot in the tech space out in the Silicon Valley. And basically, it's an IOU. And basically, you don't have to give up any equity up front. It's more like a structured relationship that says, hey, we have an agreement for future equity, but that future equity is based on the business reaching certain benchmarks. It could be revenue, could be profitability, could be valuation. And so in the early stages, there are no payments. The business isn't straddled. And, whenever it hits that benchmark, might be 3 years down.
I want to ask some follow-up questions if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, let's say it's almost like they have to perform, like the investor has to perform, right? So, yeah, you can get 50% of my business once we're at X amount of revenue per year or whatever, with this percentage of profitability and so on and so forth. But they don't get anything until then.
Correct.
Cool. I like that one.
Yep. Most people do.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Yeah.
This one, the people that are coming to me particularly, it's all relationship based. I mean, they don't really have much experience in my industry or anything. I do marketing.
Sure.
And I think they're just excited about the trajectory of the company and everything. And they want to take a big bite out of it, obviously. And yeah, as of right now, I'm not too crazy about it. What numbers are important to investors that business owners should be, cognizant of?
Well, investors are always going to want to see something like, sales, revenue, number of customers. If you're in real estate, how many deals you've done, or how many units or doors you own if you're doing multifamily or something like that.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily have to see that. If you're an early stage company or you're just getting started, really for them, they just want to see that you've got a team of people. You're not just a solopreneur, or as Mark Keaton would say, you're not a wantrepreneur. You've actually got a network. You're out there every day. You're showing up. You're creating that forward inertia, that forward momentum. And so that's really the most important thing, I think, when you're an entrepreneur, is to realize that if you're out there trying to convince an investor to give you money and you're just a solopreneur and you're doing it all by yourself, you might get lucky with friends and family, but, fat chance in hell, because it's, again, the trust issue. Unfortunately, we live in a very distrustful world today, but you have to spend time on the front end building that relationship, creating the value, so that that person that you're talking to gets to a point where there's enough trust to move forward in the relationship and to present the opportunity. Otherwise, you're just largely wasting your time. If you're pitching or you're having conversations with people and there is not a foundational layer of trust, more than likely, you're just not going to get the investment. You might get them to say, yeah, send me the information. We'll take a look at it. But they're doing that more out of politeness. And you get to a point where it's physically time to close, basically what's going to happen is that they're just going to give you every excuse you've ever heard of before. Yep.
So my business right now has got, I mean, after paying myself, it's got about 60 grand a year in profit.
Mhm.
I started about 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And we've got a team of, we have, including myself, 3 full-time W-2s and 17 contractors we work with on a regular basis. So quite a few people, right? We're on the, we'll probably do like 600K this year, and then we're hoping to double that next year. But last year we did 220, and our first year we only did 36. So I'm just like, and what they want to give me, if I'm just being very blatantly honest, is not very much. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like 100K for like 40% of the business, in some relationships, basically. And the infusion of cash is not going to help me too much. It's almost like, to be honest, the conversations that I've had with them, which could be stupid on my part, but is, they're paying me personally for a piece of my asset. So it's like 100K into my personal bank account. And then because as far as the company's already profitable, we're growing every month over month over month. And we get paid upfront. So the cost of our service is like, it's not like we need the cash flow to expand. We need more and more connections and relationships. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, here's the funny thing is, if you're building your business and you're scaling it and you're seeing year over year increase in revenues, just keep doing what you're doing, but do it with a little bit more intensity, or, hire some virtual assistants around you so that you can delegate, or so you can have some virtual assistants, which are, very inexpensive to hire. Start making some outreach to some of the leads, because you only have so many hours in a day. You can't physically speak to everybody that expresses interest in what you're doing. If you can hire some VAs, that's great. The best thing that I ever did was basically hire a sales team and move my business out of my house and physically get an office space, because I tried outsourcing sales. I basically tried, bringing people that were working for me, but were working from home in COVID. And each one of those just didn't work.
Interesting.
And I finally just said to my wife, hey, you got to create an environment where there's success. There's people that are there in an office. You can have that competitive spirit, et cetera. And so, I looked around for a long time, but I found a local developer that had an office building. And I said, look, why don't you make me a deal that I just can't say no to? And he said, all right, I've got this office here. He showed it to me. It was built out real nice. Each person would have its own separate office. And
nice.
There's a supplier. And, for $1,000 a month, I'm like, this is a no brainer. And
that's awesome.
I think that for any entrepreneur, once you realize you give up part of your business, or you give up some of the equity, you don't lose control, but is it really worth it? I remember being in a meeting about 1.5 years ago in Dallas, where I met Brandon Dawson. And this, of course, is Grant Cardone's partner at 10X and Cardone Ventures. And I told him what I do. And he's like, oh, man, I love it. Like, how's it going? And I'm like, shit, it's going great, man. We'll probably do about 450, 500,000 in sales this year. And he's like, how'd you like us to make you a multimillionaire overnight? We'll brand it to Cardone Ventures. We'll buy your brand. We'll redo everything. And I kind of, just kind of looked at him and said, well, let me sleep on it. I mean, it's an intriguing idea. But what that did for me is it confirmed that they saw more value in what I had than perhaps I did in my own product. I'm like, well, shit, these guys want to do that. And so I just kept hustling and kept grinding. And, this year we'll do well over 7 figures in revenue. And, we'll continue to grow the business. So,
awesome.
Would I have grown faster? Maybe, but I would have given up control. And then it's like, well, what would I be doing now? Like I said earlier in the podcast, I mean, I just got a call last week, and here I am flying to Dubai, and this is the same company that brought Tony Robbins to the Middle East. So what I find is that by showing up every day and moving forward as an entrepreneur, positive things happen in your life. It's the person that just kind of accepts what life throws at them and just says, well, I'm just going to show up every day, but I'm not going to be intentional in my actions. you tend to live life on a defensive side rather than being offensive and intentional in your actions and really going after what it is you really want and what your dreams are and what you really want to pursue. But if you look at yourself and say, here's my goal, here's where I want to be, and then you're intentional every week in what you're doing to move forward, you will ultimately become successful. It's the same thing in raising capital from investors. If you've got a target in the amount of money that you need to raise or that you want to raise, and you're intentional and you're showing up every week and you're having calls with investors or you're having meetings, invariably you will raise money. I've never met anybody that, quote, has not even a small amount by just simply not showing up every day. The only reason people are not successful doing it is because they just never take action on it.
True. Yep. 100% true.
Yeah.
So it's a little selfish of me, but I'm interested. How did you build out the sales team? Because it's something that I don't quite understand. And how does marketing play into it?
Yeah. So, there's a lot of ways, Keaton, that you can, hire people. You can go to platforms like Indeed and post a job description. Same thing, of course, with LinkedIn. And so you kind of create in your mind the type of the person that you're looking for, the skills, and you throw out there a job description. Yeah. And, you sit back, you're obviously going to get a bunch of resumes. And so usually it starts with a phone interview or a Zoom where you get to know that person. You kind of take that larger audience from the resumes you're gathering, or at least those people that look like they're qualified, and you try to narrow it down maybe to 5 to 7. And then you have a follow-up session. And then, of course, you ultimately make your first hire. And, when you're hiring people, you really have to give some thought to what does that compensation look like?
That's what I was going to ask. Like, what is that? I mean, yeah, I totally get how to run a job ad and interview people.
But I mean, if you're running a business, perhaps maybe like yours or like mine, where there's a sales component and you're selling a product or you're selling a marketing service or you're selling a course where you can pay people on a commission, you say, look, there's no limit to the upside. Totally. Coming on board, you can make 40, 60, 80, $100,000 based on your skills and how hard you work. I mean, we got the products, we got the tools, we got the clients, all the leads. And then you say, look, here's the commission rate. But the way that we structured it for the people here is I said, look, I'm going to give you every month a forgivable draw, which means you never have to pay it back, but you're always going to get paid the larger of the two numbers. You'll get paid the floor, which means you'll never make less than this. Yeah. But if the commissions are more, you're going to get paid basically the commissions because I want you to get the more. So it allows people to come to work for me in an environment where there is no salary, but they know, well, shit, if I have a bad week or I have a bad couple of weeks, at least I know I'm going to be able to pay my rent. At least I know gas in my car. And so that's the way we structured it. I said, look, here's the forgivable draw. Month to month, you're going to get this guaranteed. But if your commissions exceed that, you're always going to get paid.
But they never have to pay back the base, right?
Exactly.
Interesting. Very interesting. So then my other question is like, you said you provide this, and this, and this, and one of the things was the leads, right? So like you have to spend money on marketing to get leads, no?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I spend more in marketing every month than most people make. Yeah, I spend roughly 25,000 a month just in our marketing. That's
where are you spending those? Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're doing Facebook ads. We got funnels that are out there. Most people that, are clients of ours have bought a book or they've clicked on something. They downloaded our toolkit. They've seen an ad on Facebook or Instagram. Yeah. We're launching now as we speak, email marketing and also Google ads. And we're going to get into some YouTube advertising as well this year. So that's a really big push for us is to try to come out of the quote Facebook ecosystem and now start moving into some of these other platforms. We looked at LinkedIn, but LinkedIn's really expensive. And I think that you can do much better just going and using LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Yeah, agreed. People that way. But I mean, we spend a lot of marketing and then of course, speaking at events, doing stuff like that. But, when you're a 3-time author, soon to be 4 times, because I'm working on my 4th book, that gets you a lot of publicity, a lot of recognition, and gives you, of course, tremendous credibility, as well as some of the other things that we're doing. But it's really just about creating that forward motion You have to be visible on social media. So very early in my career, I outsourced all that and I hired a marketing company, and I was introduced to this marketing company when I saw some ads they did for Ed Milet and Tim Story on a big event. And I saw at the bottom, ads created by, and I'm like, that's the dude I need to hire. So I called them and I said, how much do I need to pay you to be posting content for me every day on LinkedIn and on Facebook and on Instagram? He said, I don't know, how does $1,250 a month sound? I'm like, done. Boom. You create it. You create all the words, and then that way I don't have to do any of that stuff. And so literally every day when you see my posts across social media, I don't do any of that stuff.
Yeah. That's what we do. That's what my company does. So don't pitch anyone else's company if you don't mind.
Every day. But the beautiful thing is you have to delegate as an entrepreneur. And that's the big message to anybody that'll listen to this podcast that's in a growth mode or that wants to grow. You have to basically give up control and realize, yeah, I might be able to do it better than somebody else because it is my business, but I can coach and I can train people. And then once you start delegating, you can start focusing your time on the things in the business that really move the needle. Because what happens for most entrepreneurs that are in the earlier stages is you focus so much of your day on the minutia and the bullshit that you have to do that doesn't generate revenue or doesn't really dramatically change things for you in the business. And
right.
Once you can teach other people, now you can be that strategic thinker. You can start hosting events. You can start reaching out to people on your podcast, or you can better yet be on other people's podcasts and, expose yourself to a much larger audience so that more people know what you are doing and more importantly, how you can serve their business and their business needs.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to dig more into this marketing thing. So you spend $25,000 a month on Facebook ads. What does your product suite look like? If just like out of curiosity, are you selling like a $10,000 coaching program or what? I don't know. I know you speak and do all these other things, but what are your salespeople selling?
So great question. So we have, I guess, what anybody in marketing or sales would call lead magnets. These are the funnels. These are the things that are out there. Somebody might click and buy my book for $9.95.
Yeah. What do you see is working the best?
There's really two products we have out there. There's the book offer, and then there's something we call the Capital Raising Toolkit, which is a $67 offer that people get access to an online platform that has some videos and some PDFs. But when they click on that, there's basically an order bump that says, hey, before you check out, would you like to add Brad's book to the offer? Hey, would you like to add a strategy call with Brad? So, the average sale is probably somewhere between, I don't know, $125, maybe $300. It's in that.
How much do you charge for the strategy call?
Yeah, absolutely. It's part of
the. How much do you charge if you don't mind?
After that, $29.95.
$29.95.
And it's just part of the checkout. So people basically, as they're checking out, can just buy the book for $9.95, and that's it. Yep. But if they click on the link as they're checking out, a little screen pops up that says, hey, would you like to add Brad's toolkit and accelerate your learning
for $67? And then they say yes or no, and then you add.
Then it adds. So now the total is $71.95. But here's the thing: when they check out, Keaton, what do we get? We're getting a name, we're getting an email, we're swiping credit cards, so we have a form of payment, and invariably, in many cases, we're getting a mailing address. All of those people are now leads. And so what I do every week is I take that and I give it to my sales team. And I said, all the people you're calling are warm leads because they already know me. They've already swiped the credit card. They've already voted with their wallet. So now that outreach is real simple. Now it's like, hey, Keaton, thank you so much for investing in yourself and buying Brad's book, winning at the Capital game. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, what is it you're trying to do?
Yeah.
And then the person opens up, and then my sales team says, well, geez, we got all these other tools and products at your disposal that can help you go further and farther and faster than you trying to figure out how to do this on your own. We do 8 boot camps a year. Why don't you come to one of our boot camps? Brad.
And what's the cost for the boot camp?
So our boot camp, if you sign up for our coaching and you're part of our coaching community, we discount that 50%, but the boot camp for the public is $14.97. So the boot camp is $1,500.
Okay.
Our coaching starts at $2,800. And then we have a platinum level.
Is 2,800 a month or one time? What is it?
One time, yep, 2,800 a month is our basically what we call capital school coaching. And
Okay.
then we have different levels of service. So from there, you can basically ascend to what we call capital school platinum.
Yeah.
That is $1,000 a month, or if you pay $10,000, we give you 2 months free. A lot of people, of course, pay in full up front. And then we have a $40,000 level as well that we call Capital School Elite, where I fly out to that person's office, meet with their team. We structure all the stuff that they need to have structured. We do some coaching, and then I fly back. And then my team will physically work with that person or that person's business, and we will prepare their pitch deck. We will prepare their offering memorandum, a turnkey service that we do offer. Because a lot of times people say, geez, I'd love to do this, but man, I just don't have enough time. Like, I got the money to pay you. Can you do this for me? Well, the answer is yeah, it's our elite service. And that's a $40,000 conversation that we do have with people. So, you know, we get people basically on the spectrum of, you know, starting here because they see us with the marketing we do. Then many of them will ascend here to capital school. And then some of them will ascend even higher as they realize they need a little bit more help. And that's really where the sales team comes in.
Got it. Love it.
Yeah.
They come in for the boot camps and the coaching and all that type of stuff and the percentage of sales. Got it. Beautiful. Love it. So the next question, I mean, like, this is beautiful. This is awesome. Some of my listeners are going to eat this up. This may be a little high level for some people, but and then my question is the chicken or the egg, right? So do you go and hire the salespeople and then start marketing, or you start marketing and then hire the salespeople? Because like in my case, like, I don't have enough time to take these sales calls, to be completely honest with you. I'm managing my team. I'm managing my managers who are managing my team. I'm doing relationship building things like this and going to masterminds and all that type of stuff, which is scaling the business big time for sure. But I think I could totally launch I'm in the midst of, I'm launching the ads, but I don't have the salespeople. Right. And then I've done this in the past. I've gotten like hundreds and hundreds of leads a month.
Here's the thing though, that maybe you're failing to understand. If you have a funnel, or you have a way of tracking everybody that goes to that page and clicks on it, whether they buy something or not, that is a lead. For example, there's a difference between a warm lead that basically votes with their credit card and physically buys something. Right. But if you're out there marketing, for example, we use Russell Brunson's ClickFunnels as our platform. That's what we do too. Yeah. So I can go in there and I can look basically at the contact list and every day see a whole list of people, typically about 150 a day, that have come, stopped, clicked, and I've got their name and I've got their email, but they physically have not bought something.
So they have to put through their email and stuff before they can even get to the sales page.
Well, if they want to watch my free VSL, if they want to watch one of my freebies, because the way the funnels are set up is there's a free webinar. So the very first thing they do is they click on it. Yeah, let me watch Brad's free webinar. That takes them then to the book sale, or that takes them to the toolkit. So in order to get that, they need to enter.
So you have it's like almost like a door page. It's like beautiful. Absolutely. Oh my God. I'm going to take notes. This is
so Keaton, what that becomes is a lead. Now that is a cold lead to some degree. And I say cold because they haven't bought, but is it really cold? No, they watched the video. They know.
You could email them for 12 months and then they buy
exactly
later. Yeah, absolutely.
You're catching on. And that's the beautiful thing about having the sales engine is, once you've got a team, that team can reach out and say, hey, thank you so much for watching Brad's webinar the other day. We noticed you got to the checkout cart, but you didn't buy the book, because ClickFunnels will tell you exactly where that person stopped in the process. It's like that person had the book in the damn cart, but they didn't swipe the credit card.
That's right.
When my salesperson calls them, they know exactly where that person was on that journey, and they can ask them. Same thing in Stripe. We see people that try to buy something from us, but their credit card was declined, maybe for insufficient funds or whatever.
Wrong zip code. It could be anything.
I have all that shit. My team reaches out, hey, Keaton, we noticed you trying to buy Brad's toolkit the other day and your card was declined. Is there another form of payment that we can use? And before you know it, that person goes from buying a book to coming to our boot camp or doing something else. It's really what I call the lifetime value of a client that most people overlook. Most people that are in sales are so happy of getting a customer that they forget that there's a customer journey, and you have to look at the lifetime value of that person.
Right.
If the person starts here, what can they add over the course of the relationship? Come to the boot camp. Boom, it's $1,500. Hire Brad for a coach at $1,000 a month. And so when you look at our lifetime value, our average lifetime value is probably somewhere around $4,500, $5,000. Yeah, we got some people way down here, but we got people way up here that are $40,000 clients. So, you have to really develop that, and you have to have the customer service where if you hire a virtual assistant to work for you that just reaches out to people and kind of loves on them a little bit and says, hey, we're just checking in. How's everything going? You having any issues? Do you want to get on a call with Keaton? Is there anything that you're working on that we can help with? It's a service call.
Right.
But those service calls are so important as part of that relationship, because that's what basically builds the business, and that's what gives the credibility. It's one of those things where, quote, we just don't take your money and then forget about you.
Right.
Yeah, we take your money, we develop you, but we always want to be adding value. We always want to be coming back to you to nurture and really develop that relationship for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then this is just one question I didn't quite get. You said you offer on the sales page, you offer your $3,000 coaching as an upsell.
Not on a sales page, but it is on the website. So if you go to my website and you click there, you definitely will see it. But really, most people that are sold anything above, let's just say that $1,500, $2,000, it's usually on a phone or on a Zoom.
Got it. Okay. Makes sense. Yep. So they buy the book and then the $67 or whatever it is.
Exactly.
And then your salespeople are calling them, texting them, email.
Because there is, I guess, a point in what I call virtual sales where you're selling a coaching or you're selling a product or a mentoring where you do need that interaction just so the person on the other end knows that, you are real. They got questions.
Oh, totally. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes a whole lot of sense. I don't want to buy $2,000 from someone I don't know.
What we found is there are some people that'll buy $2,800 and just swipe a credit card and never talk to anybody, but that's very rare. Between about 900 to about 1,500 is where that threshold is. Anything above that, unless you're a very established, Tony Robbins or, someone of that stature.
Totally.
And, we're getting there, but I find that usually a 30-minute call or a Zoom, boom, we're swiping a credit card for $10,000, or we're signing them up, or we're at least getting their commitment to move forward in that process with us.
Yeah. Awesome. I totally love that. This one call is going to blow up my business like crazy. I'm like, and I think it's like, hopefully there's people listening to this in the same position. This is one thing I want to point out to the listeners too, is how much money do you lose on the front end?
Nothing.
Do you make money?
Our ROI on our ad spend is probably 3.5 to 4x. So that's why I'm spending 25 G's a month.
Wow. And then you get to sell them on the back end on top of that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you always have to look at your ROI. And so
aren't you spending $100K a month?
Yeah. I mean, we're going to scale to get there.
You get what I mean? Like, wow. Like that's amazing.
I mean, when you go to Brusson's event, ClickFunnels, and you're there in the audience and you see all these people getting up on stage, getting their $1 million plaques.
Right.
I've talked to a lot of those guys and they're like, yeah, we're spending 100 G's a month, but we're making $1 million a month.
Easy. Yeah. Without even breaking a sweat. That's awesome.
It's all relative, and you have to look at that number, and it's like sailing. It's like pulling in the sails and adjusting it to the winds. You look at your ad spend, you look at your ROI, you look at how many leads you're getting, because all of those things, there are saturation points. And then, when you're doing that, you pop to the next level. Now you're raising, more money and you're spending 32.5, and you do that for a couple months and you see how that goes. You try some new ads, or you put a little spin on your marketing, because what happens is your ads eventually become saturated where
you reach the market.
The sales will plateau. And so you just change it to a different demographic, or you put in different hashtags, or you you send it off.
Change
to
the offer slightly. Yeah.
And
Totally.
we got students literally in 10 countries around the world. Every day I'm talking to people in Australia, New Zealand, Canada,
So
England.
you do all the English speaking countries.
I mean, not even English speaking. We got students in Hong Kong,
Nice.
over in China, but
Cool.
most people over there, English is a second language. I was on a call today with this woman in Dubai. She's like, no, everybody in Dubai or in the UAE, the United Arab Emirate Republic, whether it's here, Omar, Qatar, Saudi, we all speak English because it's taught as a second language. And what I have found traveling internationally is English is often taught as a second language in basically intermediate and upper school. So, I mean, I've been to Austria and I was sitting in a chairlift going up. Hello, where are you from? I'm from Germany. You speak great English. Oh, everybody in Germany speaks English as a second language. And I'm just like, why don't we teach people here in our country a second language? It should be mandatory. Of course, a lot of people take it as an elective, which you can do and speak Spanish or Russian or German as an elective. But in most other countries, English is a required second language. And so I asked this lady, if I'm going to be on stage in front of 4,000 people, is there going to be a translator? Oh, hell no. Everybody in the audience is going to know exactly
That's
what
awesome.
you're saying. We all speak English. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool. Yeah, I could probably pick your brain for like another 3 hours.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it, Keaton.
Yeah, this is really cool.
And you're at a point where, just keep doing what you're doing, but do it with more intensity.
Oh, I'm going to. I'm going to.
Yeah.
Like I already know my next like 5 steps that I didn't have before this call. So this is beautiful.
Yeah,
I had like a little taste of what I was about to do, but I know exactly what I'm doing now. This is amazing. Perfect. And then like at the same time, it sounds like you can really help people. And like, to be honest, I work with a lot of coaches and your prices probably should be a lot higher compared to like guys, if you want to work with Brad.
All relative, it's all relative. I mean, there are others out there that are a little bit more expensive, but they're not as comprehensive. I'm not going to mention any names, but I was in an event earlier and I had about 40 of my students at somebody else's event. And we were all networking. And what we found is they don't teach people how to attract and raise capital. I'm like, well, what good is it to have a fund if this guy's going to teach you how to launch a fund, but then you don't know how to raise the money? And some of these guys had funds that were out there for 3-4 months. They hadn't raised a dime.
Wow.
I'm like, well, that's insane. But, the guy's not raised $2 billion. He doesn't have the demonstrated capacity like I have to teach people how to do that at the highest level. But it all comes down to the belief that I have, and that is everybody wants to do more in life. We all want to be doing bigger things, bigger deals, investing in real estate, but 99% of the time, we're just not doing those things. Why? Because we don't have the money. And so my message is, let me teach you how to attract and raise the capital you need. And then that dream or that goal becomes reality. And now you're happy because you're doing that bigger thing. You're seeing the transformation. You're enriching yourself. You're creating wealth. And, I got students that have raised anywhere from, on the low end, a couple hundred G's, which is real money. But I got a student, Nicholas, in Vegas, has raised $6-7 million year to date. My number one student's raised over 102 million. Sam's raised $22 million since getting started in May of last year. So, for someone to say, geez, I've raised $20 million in a little over a year, man, that's life-changing money.
Life-changing, big time.
Even $1 million is life-changing money.
Yeah, I mean, at 7%, low, like, I mean, like that's huge.
There you go. That's it. Exactly. Yeah.
I always ask my guests 3 questions at the end, and kind of went off. I definitely went off my normal.
I already know the answer. I already know the answer to the first one. Yes, I do wear pants, and I wear underpants. Number 2.
That's awesome. What's one book everyone should read?
How about 3 books? All of mine. This one behind me, On the Wings of Eagles, was my first book. It was basically voted as the #1 book on a major literary blog in the United Kingdom as the #1 read for young entrepreneurs. So go to Amazon, get my book, On the Wings of Eagles, Learning to Soar in Life. It'll change your mind. It'll teach you about what we've trademarked called the art of beliefology. It's more of a entrepreneurial mindset book. But the #1 book I would recommend would be that one right there on the wall behind me, which became the #1 read on a major literary blog over in the UK.
All right, guys. So you send me a DM. I do some podcasts with people who have books. Send me a DM. First 100, I'll ship you out a thing. Just give me your
Love it.
address. But
So we'll sign copies. We got signed copies here. So you get an
beautiful,
autographed copy and we'll ship it right out to you. You bet.
awesome, great. Then if you can go back in time to any age, right? You get to talk to yourself. But when you get there, you can only say 3 sentences and then you disappear. What age would you go back to, and what are the 3 sentences you would tell yourself?
So, here's something that's proven by psychology. Our formative years between the age of 7 to 12 are really what frame us for the rest of our life. Because you have to realize the limiting beliefs and the doubt you have in your mind were there because people that were trying to protect you, that loved you when you were much younger, were saying things like, well, don't do that, or don't touch the stove, or don't do this. And so as you hear the don't do this, don't do that, between those ages of 7 to 12, they become ingrained into your subconscious. And that's where a lot of the limiting beliefs and the self-doubt comes from. So if I could go back, I probably want to go back to the age of about 10 to 11 when I was a kid. And I would have basically said to myself, don't listen to the noise. You can do anything that you set your mind to. You can be great. You can be a multimillionaire. Don't listen to the doubt and the limiting beliefs in your mind, because they're put there by people that love you, that are trying to protect you. But you have to understand that those things that you're hearing are all false. It gets back to what we call the reptilian brain, which is a part of our brain whose sole purpose is to keep us alive. And so whenever anything presents itself, whether it is a real fear, like, something like jumping off of a bridge, or, parachuting, or just a quote subconscious fear of starting a business, man, that makes me fearful. If I lose the money, or if I fail. And so I think the biggest message I would give myself is don't listen to the noise, just have a goal, commit to it, and then move forward. And the solution will always present itself. Always has and always will.
Yep. So I'm gonna pull you back to the question. It was so it'd be what are the 3 sentences again?
Well, number one is don't listen to the noise, which
Okay.
basically means, don't listen to your subconscious mind trying to talk you out of doing something big in life.
Yeah.
So
What's
that
number
would be
2?
number one. Number 2 would be commit first, figure out how to do it second.
Okay.
Because if you don't commit, you're never going to take the action to the things that you committed to. And then, the third is live life big. Basically, quit thinking small. People are so capable of doing so much more in life. But here's the thing. I always end my emails, live life big. Most people just accept like what life gives them. They're not intentional in changing their life or creating a compelling future. And so we just show up every day and we kind of live life on the defensive. But I was listening to Tim Grover, who, of course, has been the coach to some of the best athletes on the planet, Michael Jordan, Kobe, A-Rod, Tiger Woods. And I said, well, what separates those guys from everybody else that plays in the same league or plays the sport? He said, it's all mindset.
Yeah.
He said, when the coach said to the team, hey, everybody, we're going to be here tomorrow morning at 8:00, start the workout. Michael Jordan had already shown up at 7:15, had already put in 40 hours worth of work before the rest of the team showed up. And then he stayed later after everybody left. Why? It's just the mental commitment to be the best of the best of the best. And it's not just in the sport, it's in all areas of his life, relationships with other people, his spirit, his competitiveness. And so you got to realize, when you're out there, there are literally millions of people on the planet that do exactly what you do. The question is, do you want to do it better? Do you want to be known for doing it better? And the challenge most people have is it takes effort and it takes work to be at the highest level in anything in life. And the analogy that I always give when I'm speaking on stage is, look, we all want beautiful 6-pack abs, but how many of us actually have them? Very few. Why? Work, diet, got to go to the gym. So most people walk around with a big old beer gut, or, some extra weight on their midsection, we're not looking like the guy on the cover of GQ. Why? Because the effort and the work involved in doing that. Well, same thing with success. But if you're intentional and you put in the work, anybody can have success. It ain't luck. There ain't no secret. It's just working harder than the next guy and putting more effort into it and being intentional with everything you're doing. That's it.
That's it.
That's the secret.
Beautiful. Love it. Well, before I wrap it up, where can everyone go follow you, man?
Well, if you Google me, I pretty much show up everywhere. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn. The easiest way to follow me is just remember that there are no E's in the spelling of my name. It's Brad Blazar, B-L-A-Z like zebra, A-R. Follow me on Instagram, just Brad Blazar. Go to Facebook and follow me there. Go to LinkedIn, reach out, send me a DM on Facebook Messenger. Or the best way is just go to my website, just www.bradblazar.com. Buy a book, check out Capital School, check out the boot camp. We got our next boot camp coming up August the 12th and the 13th. If you're a listener of Keaton's podcast and you want to come, shoot me a DM. Maybe I'll cut you a special deal or just let you come for free altogether. But, it's all about just getting the knowledge. And that's what I tell people. There are people out there that have the knowledge, that have already done what it is you're trying to do. Get with them, network, hire them as a mentor. Basically success does leave clues. And if you're willing to walk in their steps and follow the things that they've done, more than likely you'll have a comparable level of success. It might not be overnight. Nothing's overnight. Success is more of a marathon than it is a sprint, but just keep showing up each and every day. And, it's like anything, losing weight. You go running every day. The end of the week, you look at yourself, you don't notice any significant change, but you do that every day for 2 months. Now you're like, holy crap, I've lost 3 inches around my waist. Holy crap, my weight went from 210. Now I'm down to, 202. I've lost 8 pounds. You start seeing that positive change with incremental efforts that compound over time. That's the big secret, everybody. Incremental efforts every day over extended periods of time are what are going to bring around the big, the monumental, changes in your life.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast, guys. This is a good one. Share it out. May not be like, if you're into marketing, this is a full of golden nuggets. My team's going to clip this up and find some great nuggets.
Here's the thing, don't be scared about spending money. The biggest challenge most people have is you get a little bit of money in the bank and then you're like, man, you're like protecting it.
It's a tool.
The fear of what I call replacement. You're like, man, if I spend that money that's sitting in my bank account, I might not be able to replace it. I might actually lose it. No, you've got to just have the confidence that that money's going to replenish itself. Yeah, it don't grow on trees, but if you're spending it wisely in marketing, if you're spending it wisely in staffing, if you're putting it back in your business will flourish and it will definitely grow.
Awesome. I love it, man. Yeah. Thank you so much again for being on, guys. Share this one out. It was a good one, and give us a rating and review. I'll get more awesome guests like Brad on here for you guys to listen to while you're at the gym, while you're driving, all that type of stuff.
Love it.
All right.
Thank you so much for hosting us today. Have a wonderful remainder to your week. And, we're just to add value and help people. So reach out, and anything we can do on our end to add value to your life, anything we can do to basically answer questions, we'd love to do that for everybody. So again, Keaton, thanks for being a great host today.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Awesome.